The Galactic Confederation had existed for 12,000 years. 47 different alien species lived together under one government. They followed something called the Sacred Protocols. These were rules that controlled everything: trade, travel, war, peace. Every species followed these rules without question. No one had ever broken them. No one had ever tried. Then the humans arrived. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of his ship, the Endeavor. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 18 months traveling through space to reach this moment. Behind him stood his crew of 200 people. They were the first humans to ever meet aliens. Through the window, Daniel could see a massive space station. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Lights covered every surface. Ships of strange shapes flew around it like insects around a lamp. "Captain, they are sending us a message," said Lieutenant Maria Santos. She was young, only 26 years old. She had brown skin and black hair that she kept tied back. Her job was communications, and she was very good at it. "Let me hear it," Daniel said. The screen in front of them flickered. An alien appeared. It looked like a giant insect. Its head was shaped like a triangle. It had large eyes that showed no emotion. Its mouth had sharp parts that clicked together when it spoke. "Human vessel," a mechanical voice translated. "You have entered Confederation space without permission. This breaks Protocol 7, Section 12. You must give us your ship. Your crew must answer our questions." Daniel looked at his first officer, Commander Lisa Morgan. She was a woman in her 40s with short red hair and a face that rarely smiled. She raised one eyebrow at him. They had worked together for 10 years. They did not need words to communicate. "Ambassador," Daniel said to the alien, "we did not know about Protocol 7. We have never met your Confederation before. How can we follow rules that nobody told us about?" The alien was silent for a moment. Its mouth parts clicked several times. This seemed to confuse it. "Not knowing the law does not excuse breaking it," the alien finally said. "That might be true in your Confederation," Daniel replied. "But we are not part of your Confederation. We came here to talk, not to surrender." The screen went black. The alien had ended the conversation. Maria looked up from her controls. Her face was pale. "Captain, they are turning on their weapons." Commander Morgan stepped forward. "Should we run?" Daniel shook his head slowly. A small smile appeared on his face. It was not a friendly smile. "No, power up our weapons too. Let them see that we are not afraid." The Endeavor was not a warship. It was built for exploration. But humans had learned long ago that exploring dangerous places required big guns. The ship's weapons came online with a low hum that everyone on the bridge could feel. For several minutes, nothing happened. The alien ship pointed its weapons at them. The Endeavor pointed its weapons back. Neither side fired. Then a new message came through. This time, it was different. "Human vessel," the mechanical voice said. "The High Council will see you. Follow the guide ship to the station. Do not try anything foolish." A small ship appeared in front of them. It began moving toward the station. "Follow it," Daniel ordered, "and keep our weapons ready, just in case." The Endeavor followed the guide ship through a maze of traffic. Hundreds of alien vessels flew past them. Some were tiny, no bigger than a car. Others were enormous, like flying cities. The aliens inside them stopped what they were doing to stare at the human ship. "They have never seen anything like us," Maria said quietly. "Good," Daniel replied. "Let them wonder." The station grew larger and larger until it filled the entire window. Up close, Daniel could see that it was not one structure but many. Different sections had been built by different species. Some parts were smooth and elegant. Others were rough and industrial. Together, they formed something beautiful and strange. The guide ship led them to a docking port. The Endeavor connected to the station with a loud clang that echoed through the hull. "Sergeant Brooks," Daniel spoke into his communicator. "Bring your team to the airlock. We are going for a walk." Kevin Brooks was the leader of the Marine squad on the Endeavor. He was a large man with dark skin and hands that could crush rocks. His team of 6 soldiers were the best fighters on the ship. They met Daniel at the airlock. The soldiers wore combat armor but carried no weapons. The aliens had demanded this. "Remember," Daniel told them, "we are here to make friends. But if things go wrong, we fight our way back to the ship." Kevin nodded. "Understood, Captain." The airlock opened. A wave of strange smells hit them. The air was breathable but different. It tasted like metal and flowers mixed together. A group of aliens waited for them. There were several of the insect creatures. There was also something that looked like a walking crystal. Light passed through its body and created rainbows on the walls. "I am High Arbiter Zelenoth," the crystal being said. Its voice was like wind chimes. "I lead the Confederation Council. You will come with me." They walked through corridors that twisted and turned in ways that hurt the human eyes. The walls changed color as they passed. Strange sounds came from behind closed doors. Other aliens stopped to watch them. Some whispered to each other. Some pointed. A few looked scared. "Your kind has caused much discussion," Zelenoth said as they walked. "Many believe you are dangerous." "Are we?" Daniel asked. The crystal being made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is what we will find out." They entered a massive room. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats rising up on all sides. Hundreds of aliens sat in those seats, representing all 47 species of the Confederation. They all stared down at the small group of humans in the center. Daniel looked around at all the strange faces. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some were so alien that he could not tell which end was the front, but he was not afraid. Humans had faced worse odds before. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed their world. They had climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. These aliens thought they were primitive. They thought they could bully humanity into submission. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Daniel straightened his uniform and faced the council. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. 5 years had passed since the Endeavor first entered Confederation space. In that time, the galaxy had changed more than in the previous 5,000 years combined. Daniel Hayes was no longer a ship captain. He was now Ambassador Hayes, humanity's permanent representative to the Galactic Council. He had traded his uniform for diplomatic clothes, but he had not traded his willingness to speak his mind. The council chamber looked different now. New sections had been added to accommodate 6 new species who had joined after seeing humanity's example. Where once 47 flags had hung, now 53 flew proudly. The galaxy was growing. Maria Santos sat in the front row of the observer section. She was no longer a communications officer. She now led something called the Innovation Council, a new organization dedicated to finding better ways of doing things. Her team included scientists, engineers, and thinkers from 20 different species. Kevin Brooks sat beside her. The former Marine sergeant had become a security advisor, helping the Confederation develop more effective peacekeeping methods. Methods that actually prevented conflict instead of just responding to it. Commander Lisa Morgan commanded a joint human Varathi patrol fleet. The same species that had once tried to destroy them now served alongside them. Old enemies had become new allies. Today was a special day. 5 years exactly since first contact. The council had gathered to mark the occasion with speeches and ceremonies. But Daniel had something different in mind. 5 years ago, Daniel said from the central podium, I stood in this same spot and told you that your rules were broken. I told you that humans would not follow orders that made no sense. Many of you wanted me dead for saying those things. Quiet laughter rippled through the chamber. Even Kethril, who had once been his loudest opponent, made a clicking sound that might have been amusement. I was right about some things, Daniel continued. The old protocols needed changing. The old ways were holding you back. But I was also wrong about something important. The chamber grew quiet. This was unexpected. I thought humans would teach the Confederation how to change. I thought we would show you how to adapt and grow. But that is not what happened. Instead, we learned from each other. You taught us patience. You taught us that some traditions have value. You taught us that 12,000 years of civilization created wisdom we could barely imagine. He looked around at the assembled aliens. So many different shapes and colors and sizes. So many different ways of thinking and living and being. And we taught you that wisdom means nothing if you are afraid to use it. That rules exist to serve life, not the other way around. That questioning is not the same as disrespecting. That change is not the same as destruction. High Arbiter Zelenoth stood at the raised platform, the same spot where the crystal being had once demanded human surrender. Now Zelenoth watched with something like pride. The galaxy did learn from humanity, Zelenoth said. But the lesson was not what we expected. We thought you would teach us how to fight. Instead, you taught us how to question, how to wonder, how to look at things we had accepted forever, and ask, could this be better? The crystal being moved forward, light dancing through the translucent body. Before humans came, we were frozen, trapped in patterns so old we had forgotten they were patterns at all. We followed rules because we had always followed rules. We did things because we had always done things. We were not living. We were just existing. A new voice spoke up. It was Elder Brentok of the Solari, the tree-like alien who had supported Daniel during the early debates. Humans showed us that growth requires change. A tree that cannot grow new branches will eventually die. A civilization that cannot grow new ideas will meet the same fate. Representative Yelmara added her voice. My people have lived longer than any other in the Confederation. We have seen species rise and fall. The ones who survived were the ones who could adapt. The ones who died were the ones who could not. Humans reminded us of this truth. Daniel felt emotion building in his chest. He had not expected this response. He had expected polite acknowledgement, not genuine appreciation. There is still much work to do, Daniel said, his voice slightly rough. The new protocols are not perfect. Some of the old problems remain. New problems appear every day. We have not solved everything. We have not fixed everything. He paused and smiled. But we have started. And that is more than anyone thought possible 5 years ago. The ceremony continued with speeches from other representatives. Each species shared how the past 5 years had affected them. Some changes had been painful. Some had been joyful. All had been necessary. After the formal event, Daniel found himself in the observation room where he had once spoken privately with Zelenoth. The crystal being joined him at the window. You have accomplished something remarkable, Ambassador Hayes. When you first arrived, I thought your species would either be destroyed or would destroy us. I never imagined this. Zelenoth gestured at the stars. Partnership, growth, genuine change. It was not just me, Daniel said. It was all of us. Humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, making each other better. Perhaps that is your greatest lesson, Zelenoth said. That we do not have to do things alone. That different species, working together, can accomplish more than any could accomplish separately. Daniel nodded slowly. He looked out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. The fear of first contact, the anger of the early debates, the chaos of the battle, the long, difficult work of building something new, and now this. A galaxy transformed, not by force, not by conquest, but by the simple, powerful act of asking questions and refusing to accept bad answers. What comes next? Xelanoth asked, echoing a question from years ago. Daniel smiled. It was the same answer he had given then. I have no idea. And that is exactly what makes it exciting. Below them, ships from dozens of species moved through space. Human vessels flew alongside Varathi cruisers and Talani transports and Solari carriers. A fleet of many colors, many shapes, many peoples, all working toward a common future. Maria Santos appeared at the doorway. Ambassador, there is something you should see. Long-range sensors have detected new signals at the edge of known space. We think it might be another unknown species. Daniel turned to look at her. Then he turned to look at Xelanoth. The crystal being's body flickered with anticipation. Well, Daniel said, I suppose we should go say hello. And if they do not follow our rules? Xelanoth asked. There was humor in the wind chime voice. Daniel laughed. Then we teach them what we have learned. That rules are meant to serve life. That change is not something to fear. And that the galaxy is big enough for everyone willing to grow. He walked toward the doorway, toward the future, toward whatever came next. Behind him, Xelanoth watched him go. Around him, the new Confederation continued its work. Ahead of him, new adventures waited. The humans had not followed the galaxy's rules. They had done something better. They had helped write new ones. And now, together with their alien allies, they would keep writing. The story of the galaxy was no longer a book that had already been finished. It was a book still being written, and humans would make sure it had plenty of exciting chapters still to come. The end. The council chamber was the largest room Daniel Hayes had ever seen. It could hold thousands of aliens. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Light came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Daniel stood at a small platform in the center of the room. Maria Santos stood on his right. Sergeant Kevin Brooks and his 6 Marines stood behind them. They were surrounded by aliens on all sides. It felt like being a bug under a microscope. High Arbiter Xelanoth floated to a raised platform above them. The crystal being's body caught the light and scattered it across the room like a disco ball. This session of the Galactic Council will begin, Xelanoth announced. The wind chime voice echoed off the walls. The humans stand accused of breaking the sacred protocols. A holographic screen appeared in the air. Words scrolled across it in a language Daniel could not read. But the translator in his ear told him everything. Violation 1. Protocol 7. Entering Confederation space without permission. Xelanoth paused. Violation 2. Protocol 12. Refusing inspection of your vessel. Violation 3. Protocol 23. Threatening a Confederation ship with weapons. The list continued. By the time Xelanoth finished, there were 17 violations. What do you say to these charges? Xelanoth asked. Daniel cleared his throat. I say that we cannot break rules we did not know existed. We came from outside your space. We had never heard of your protocols. How can you punish someone for breaking a law they never learned? Murmurs spread through the chamber. The aliens whispered to each other in dozens of languages. Some sounded like music. Some sounded like grinding metal. Some sounded like nothing Daniel had ever heard before. Ignorance does not excuse lawbreaking, Xelanoth said firmly. This is the way it has always been. Then your way is wrong, Daniel said simply. The chamber went silent. Every alien stared at him. Some looked shocked. Others looked angry. A few looked curious. Ambassador Kethral, the insect creature from their first contact, rose from his seat. His triangle-shaped head turned toward Daniel. His compound eyes reflected the light like broken mirrors. You dare question the sacred protocols? Cathral's translated voice was harsh. These rules have kept peace in the galaxy for 12,000 years. What gives you the right to challenge them? Common sense gives me the right, Daniel answered. He turned to address the whole chamber. Let me ask you something. Your Protocol 23 says we threatened a Confederation ship. But your ship pointed weapons at us first. We only responded to protect ourselves. Self-defense is not recognized under Protocol 91, Zelenoth explained. Daniel blinked. I am sorry. What did you say? There is no provision for self-defense in the sacred protocols. All conflicts must be resolved through proper legal channels. Maria made a small sound behind him. Daniel could feel his marines shifting uncomfortably. So if someone attacks us, Daniel said slowly, making sure he understood, we are supposed to just let them? You are supposed to file a formal complaint. Then wait for the council to investigate. Then wait for a judgment. This is the civilized way. And how long does that process take? Zelenoth consulted something only the crystal being could see. The average time for conflict resolution is 47 of your Earth years. 47 years. Daniel let that sink in. If an alien fleet destroyed a human colony, humans were supposed to fill out paperwork and wait half a century for justice. By then, everyone involved would be dead of old age. That is insane, Daniel said flatly. The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens shouted in anger. Others made sounds that might have been agreement. Zelenoth raised a crystalline arm, and the noise slowly died down. You come to our galaxy, Zelenoth said, and you insult our way of life. You break our laws. You refuse to show respect. Why should we welcome you into our confederation? Daniel took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for since they left Earth. Everything depended on what he said next. Because you need us, he said. Silence fell again. But this time, it was different. This time, it felt dangerous. Explain, Zelenoth commanded. Your confederation has existed for 12,000 years, Daniel said. And in all that time, your laws have never changed. Your technology has never improved. Your borders have never expanded. You are frozen in place, stuck, unable to grow or adapt. He paused to let his words sink in. Humans have only been traveling through space for 80 years. In that time, we went from primitive rockets to faster-than-light travel. We learned. We changed. We adapted. That is what we do. Cathral made a clicking sound that the translator could not interpret. You think you are better than us? No. Daniel shook his head. I think we are different from you. And I think the difference is exactly what your confederation needs. You have forgotten how to question. You have forgotten how to challenge. You have forgotten how to grow. He gestured at the massive chamber around them. Look at this place. It is beautiful. It is advanced. But it has not changed in thousands of years. The same species sit in the same seats, following the same rules, having the same arguments. Nothing ever gets better because nobody is allowed to make it better. A new voice spoke up. It came from a section of the chamber Daniel had not noticed before. The alien who spoke looked like a deer with 6 legs and scales that shimmered with rainbow colors. The human makes an interesting point. The translator identified the speaker as Representative Yelmara of the Talani species. The sacred protocols were written during the first founding. Only 3 species existed then. Perhaps some revision is needed. Heresy. Cathral shouted. The protocols are sacred. They cannot be changed. Why not? Daniel asked. Because someone told you they could not? Because that is how it has always been done. He shook his head. Those are not reasons. Those are excuses. Rules should serve the people who follow them, not the other way around. The chamber descended into chaos. Aliens argued with each other in a dozen languages. Some agreed with Daniel. Others wanted him arrested. A few looked like they wanted him dead, but some, Daniel noticed, looked thoughtful. They looked at him with new eyes. They looked at him like he was something they had never seen before. Maybe that was because he was. Zelenoth finally restored order. The crystal being looked down at Daniel with an expression that might have been respect, or might have been hunger. With aliens, it was hard to tell. The council will consider your words, Zelenoth said. Until a decision is reached, you and your crew will remain on the station. You are not prisoners, but you are not guests either. The being paused. I suggest you use this time wisely, Captain Hayes. Many here believe you should be destroyed. Prove them wrong. Daniel nodded. That is exactly what I plan to do. 3 days passed on the space station. During that time, Daniel Hayes and his crew were watched constantly. Alien security officers followed them everywhere. Cameras recorded their every move. The Confederation did not trust them, but the Confederation also could not ignore them. News of the humans spread across the galaxy. For the first time in thousands of years, something new had happened. A strange species had arrived and challenged the sacred protocols. Some called them criminals. Others called them heroes. Everyone had an opinion. On the 4th day, Zelenoth summoned Daniel to a private meeting. The crystal being waited in a small room overlooking the stars. Rainbow light danced across the walls as Zelenoth moved. Your words have caused trouble, the High Arbiter said. Several species now demand changes to the protocols. Others demand your death. The Council cannot agree on anything. Daniel showed no surprise. I expected that. You wanted this to happen, Zelenoth said. It was not a question. I wanted you to think. To question. To remember that rules are just words on a page. They can be rewritten. Zelenoth made a sound like breaking glass. The translator called it laughter. You are clever for such a young species. But cleverness will not be enough. Many powerful voices want you gone. Then let me prove that we deserve to stay, Daniel said. Let me show you what humans can do. What do you propose? Daniel smiled. A demonstration. The details took 2 more days to arrange. In the end, 12 human ships faced 200 Confederation peacekeeping vessels. The terms were simple. If the humans won, they would be recognized as equals. If they lost, they would submit to Confederation law. Most of the Council expected a quick human defeat. 200 against 12 was not a fair fight. The Confederation had thousands of years of military experience. The humans were practically children. Admiral Threshold of the Varathi commanded the peacekeeping fleet. He was an old warrior, covered in scars from battles long past. His compound eyes studied the human ships with contempt. Primitive vessels, Threshold said to his officers. Poorly armed. Badly designed. This will be over in minutes. Commander Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the Endeavor. Captain Hayes had insisted on watching from the station. He wanted to prove that human tactics worked regardless of who gave the orders. All ships, this is Morgan, Lisa spoke into her communicator. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. And remember that every alien in the galaxy is watching. Let us give them a show. The battle began at exactly noon station time. Both fleets started at opposite ends of a designated combat zone. The Confederation ships moved forward in perfect formation, just as Protocol 94 commanded. Every ship knew its place. Every captain followed the rules. The human ships scattered. They flew in random directions, breaking apart like a flock of birds frightened by a loud noise. There was no formation, no pattern, no sense. Threshold watched with confusion. What are they doing? This is not how warfare works. His tactical officer, a young Varathi named Kethson, studied his screens. Sir, they are not following any recognized combat pattern. Obviously, they are panicking. Move our ships to intercept. The Confederation fleet advanced. They maintained their perfect formation as they chased the scattered human vessels. Everything was going according to plan. Then the human ships opened fire, but they did not shoot at the Confederation vessels. They shot at empty space. Missiles exploded in the darkness, creating clouds of energy and debris. The explosions blocked sensors. They jammed communications. They filled the void with chaos. Inside that chaos, the human ships regrouped. Threshold suddenly could not see anything. His sensors showed only static. His communications were full of noise. For the first time in his long career, he did not know what was happening. Where are they? Threshold demanded. No one could answer. The Confederation ships were blind and deaf, stumbling through the interference. They tried to maintain formation, but formation required communication. Formation required knowing where your allies were. The humans did not have this problem. They had trained for exactly this situation. Lisa Morgan watched on her screens as the human ships moved through the confusion. Each captain knew the plan. Each crew had practiced it 100 times. They did not need to talk to each other. They knew what to do. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta, Lisa ordered. 12 human vessels struck as one. They appeared out of the chaos like ghosts. Their weapons fired with perfect accuracy. Not at crew sections or bridges. At engines. At weapons. At the systems that made the Confederation ships dangerous. 6 Confederation vessels went dark in the first 30 seconds. Their engines exploded. Their weapons went offline. They floated helplessly, disabled but not destroyed. Threshold watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. Ships crashed into each other as they tried to avoid the human attacks. Officers screamed for orders over jammed communications. The perfect formation had become a perfect disaster. This is not possible, Threshold whispered. They are breaking every rule of combat. Kethson stated the obvious. Sir, they never agreed to follow our rules. The battle lasted 14 minutes. When it was over, 23 Confederation ships were disabled. Many more were damaged. The human ships had not suffered a single scratch. Lisa Morgan looked at her crew. They were breathing hard, covered in sweat, but smiling. They had done the impossible. They had beaten an enemy 17 times their size. This is Commander Morgan to the station, Lisa said. The demonstration is complete. I hope you were watching. On the station, Daniel Hayes stood at a window overlooking the combat zone. Beside him, High Arbiter Zelenoth watched in silence. The crystal being's body flickered with colors Daniel had never seen before. Impossible, Zelenoth said quietly. That should have been impossible. Daniel shook his head. Not impossible. Just unexpected. Your fleet followed rules. Our fleet followed instincts. Rules can be predicted. Instincts cannot. You have proven your point, Captain Hayes. Zelenoth turned to face him. The council will meet tomorrow. Many minds have changed today. Many more will change before this is over. Daniel nodded. He looked out at the disabled Confederation ships, now being rescued by their allies. No lives had been lost. That had been important to him. We do not want to destroy your Confederation, Daniel said. We want to join it, but as equals, as partners, not as servants following rules that make no sense. And if we refuse? Daniel smiled. It was a friendly smile this time. Then we will keep demonstrating until you change your mind. Zelenoth made the breaking glass sound again, laughing. I am beginning to like you. Captain Hayes, you are unlike anyone I have ever met. That is because you have never met a human before. Get used to it. There are billions more of us back home. The crystal being considered this. Then, slowly Zelenoth extended a hand. It was a human gesture, one the being must have learned in the past few days. Daniel shook it. Crystal fingers closed around his hand, cold and smooth. Welcome to the Confederation, Captain Hayes. I believe things are about to get very interesting. The council meeting the next day was unlike any meeting in Confederation history. For the first time in 12,000 years, the sacred protocols were being questioned openly. Daniel Hayes stood at the center podium again. But this time, the aliens looked at him differently. The contempt was gone. In its place was something new. Some looked afraid. Others looked curious. A few looked hopeful. High Arbiter Zelenoth called the session to order. The crystal being's voice echoed through the massive chamber. We are here to discuss the human request for equal membership in the Confederation. After yesterday's demonstration, many opinions have changed. Ambassador Catherall rose immediately. The insect creature's mandibles clicked angrily. The demonstration proved nothing except that humans are dangerous. They ignored our combat protocols. They used tricks and deception. This is not honorable warfare. It is effective warfare, Daniel replied calmly. And effectiveness is what keeps people alive. Your protocols look good on paper, but our tactics actually work. You disabled 23 of our ships, and I killed no one. Every crew member survived. Every ship can be repaired. Daniel looked around the chamber. How many of your honorable battles can say the same? How many of your proper wars ended with 0 deaths? Silence answered him. The aliens exchanged uncomfortable glances. They all knew the truth. The protocols were designed to look fair. They were not designed to prevent death. Representative Yelmara, the 6-legged deer creature, spoke next. Her scales shimmered as she moved. The human makes a valid point. Our combat protocols prioritize form over function. Perhaps we have been too focused on following rules and not focused enough on results. The protocols have maintained peace for millennia, Kethro argued. Without them, chaos would consume us all. Has it been peace? Daniel asked. He turned to address the whole chamber. I have spent the past week studying your history. In the last 1,000 years alone, there have been 47 major conflicts between member species. Millions have died. Entire colonies have been destroyed, all while following your sacred protocols exactly as written. He let that sink in. The numbers were true. He had Maria research them carefully. Those deaths were illegal under the protocols, Catherall said. The proper procedures were followed. And that makes them acceptable? Daniel shook his head. Where I come from, we do not care if death is legal or illegal. We care if death is preventable. We care if rules actually make things better or just make us feel better about things staying the same. A new voice joined the discussion. It came from an alien Daniel had not seen before. The creature looked like a walking tree, with bark-like skin and branches instead of arms. The translator identified it as Elder Brentak of the Solari species. The humans ask an important question, Brentak said. The voice sounded like wind through leaves. Why do we follow the protocols? Not because we were told to, but because we believe they serve us. If they no longer serve us, should we not change them? The protocols are sacred. Catherall was almost shouting now. They were written by our founders. They have guided us since the beginning. And your founders, Daniel said quietly, were they perfect? Did they know everything? Could they see 12,000 years into the future and predict every problem? No answer came, because the answer was obvious. No one was perfect. No one knew everything. The founders had been wise, but they had also been limited by their time and experience. Rules should grow and change with the people who follow them, Daniel continued. A living tree adds new branches. A healthy body creates new cells. Only dead things stay exactly the same forever. Zelenoth raised a crystalline arm. The chamber fell silent. We will vote on the following proposal. The sacred protocols will be reviewed. A special committee will examine each rule and recommend changes where necessary. The humans will be granted observer status during this process. The vote was close. Many species still feared change. They had followed the same rules for so long that new ideas felt like attacks. But enough votes supported the proposal. History had been made. After the session, Zelenoth approached Daniel privately. The crystal being led him to a quiet observation room where they could talk without being heard. You have accomplished something remarkable, Captain Hayes. The protocols have never been formally reviewed before. Many thought they never would be. It is just a first step, Daniel said. The hard work comes next. Actually changing things is much harder than agreeing to consider changes. Wise observation. Zelenoth moved to the window. Stars filled the view, countless points of light in the darkness. Tell me something honestly. Why do you care about our confederation? You could simply leave. Return to your own space. Build your own civilization without our interference. Daniel joined the crystal being at the window. For a moment, he just looked at the stars. So many worlds. So many possibilities. Because isolation never works, he finally said. Humans tried it many times in our history. Nations closed their borders. Cultures rejected outsiders. It always ended badly. We are stronger when we connect, when we share, when we learn from each other, even when those others are so different from you. Especially then. The species that think exactly like us have nothing new to teach us. But you, the Vorathi, the Talani, all the others, you have thousands of years of different experiences, different ideas, different solutions to problems we have not even discovered yet. Zelenoth considered this. Rainbow light rippled through the crystal body. Humans are strange, Captain Hayes. You fight like demons, but speak of peace. You break our rules, but preach cooperation. You are a species of contradictions. We are a species that adapts, Daniel said. Whatever this situation requires, we become. That is how we survived. That is how we will help the Confederation survive whatever comes next. What do you think comes next? Daniel smiled. I have no idea. And that is exactly what makes it exciting. Over the following weeks, the committee began its work. Protocols were examined one by one. Some were kept. Some were modified. Some were removed entirely. It was slow, difficult work. Arguments erupted constantly. Old enemies found new reasons to fight. But progress was made. The right of self-defense was officially recognized. First contact procedures were updated. Combat protocols were revised to prioritize survival over form. And through it all, the humans watched. They offered suggestions when asked. They provided examples from their own history. They showed what had worked on Earth and what had failed. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, painfully, like a massive ship turning in a new direction. But changing nonetheless. Daniel Hayes stood at the window of his quarters on the station. He held a message from Earth in his hand. The government back home wanted updates. They wanted to know if the mission was succeeding. He thought about how to respond. How could he explain what was happening here? How could he describe watching 12,000 years of tradition crack open like an egg? In the end, he kept it simple. We arrived as strangers. We were treated as criminals. Now we are treated as teachers. The galaxy is starting to listen. Send more ships. Send more people. The real work is just beginning. He sent the message and turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, more humans were coming. More questions were forming. More rules were waiting to be broken. And Daniel Hayes could not wait to see what happened next.